Good afternoon. OGV Energy are here at the Data-Driven Production for the North Sea Conference at Ardo House. And I'm delighted to have with me Julian from Dell Technologies. How are you, Julian? How are you doing?
Doing well, Daniel. Been an interesting conference.
So you're one of the keynote speakers from this morning. What were the kind of key themes of your presentation?
Well, basically, as you know, the oil and gas industry is really trying to optimize the way in which we do production. We want to reduce costs. We want to keep operations safe. And one of the ways in which companies are trying to address that is by using a lot of data to understand how their assets are performing, and then to run analytics on that, and then to optimize the way in which they run operations. So one of the things I was trying to talk to the industry about is how far should we be taking analytics? So there's no question it needs to be done, but how far do we want to automate systems to the point where the analytics is effectively running the show? So who is responsible in the end when something goes wrong, perhaps? But ultimately, how are we going to validate the decisions that artificial intelligence is actually making? But we're a long way from that problem at the moment. So basically, we're focusing on trying to help companies to understand how to gather data from the edge, transmit it to a central environment so we can perform analytics, and then create models that we can push back out to the edge so that we can make the edge more intelligent, so decisions can be taken where the asset actually is at in a more automated kind of way. And that way, we think with this sort of distributed intelligence, the oil field operations can be more optimized and can be safer.
So you had quite an interesting analogy that you made on one of your slides. You had a picture of an octopus.
Yeah, I think that was interesting because an octopus, as you know, well, from today at least anyway, if you didn't know before, has a central brain, and then in each of its 8 tentacles, it's got a mini brain. Now, what's fascinating about that is that the tentacles can, in some ways, make decisions on their own, which kind of is analogous to edge analytics, where we've got assets out in, say, the North Sea, where we want to put intelligence into those assets so that they can, perform well in an optimal way. They can self-heal.
Feed data back to like a central processing unit.
Yeah, so 2 things. So one is to feed the data back to a central process so that we can understand better how the asset is performing. But then when we push models out to the asset itself, we can help it, look at its own data and optimize its own behavior as well. And that, I think, will create a much more efficient operation. But I think back to the octopus analogy is that even though each tentacle has its own mini brain, what's fascinating about an octopus is that there is a central neural ring that connects all 8 of these tentacles. So what happens is that the tentacles can actually collaborate with each other. And that's exactly the same kind of thing we want to have with oil field operations. It's not only to optimize assets on their own, but to have the assets cross-optimize themselves so that overall the field asset itself behaves in a very optimal way.
And going back to what you said earlier about the human factor, you were very clear that wouldn't be replacing at this stage, and we have to kind of have a look at liability and how far do we take this artificial intelligence and what do we want it doing so that we still have a human in control to make those management decisions, which are obviously key from the operator side of things.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. I mean, there's no question that the technology that exists today, if you wanted to fully automate an asset, you could do. You can perhaps over time, as we get more data and we have better algorithms, faster computing, you can have an asset operate completely on its own. But is that where we really want to get to? I don't think it's a good idea for us to abdicate complete responsibility to artificial intelligence and just simply let it run. I think whenever we build automation into our systems, the human must have a place in terms of being able to make an ultimate decision and to, at the very basic level, to at least understand what the AI is ultimately doing with the asset. So to put it another way, whatever happens with automation, we need to be able to understand how the asset is performing, why it's performing that way. And if artificial intelligence is making decisions on the behavior of the asset, we need to understand how those decisions were taken so that if we need to step in, we know how to do so in the most optimal manner.
Lastly, just to kind of to finalize for those that don't know, I mean, how active are Dell Technologies within the energy sector just now? I mean, what's it worth to the company?
Dell Technologies, many people look at Dell and will obviously know it from laptops and monitors. But Dell Technologies is a $90+ billion organization, and we have technology ranging from laptops and monitors all the way to high-performance computing to help with things like seismic processing, all the way through to converged infrastructure to help geoscience applications be provisioned to the geoscience community in a much more optimal way, all the way through to scalable data management environments. Because in the oil and gas industry we talked about, there's a lot of data, petabytes of data that needs to be managed. So you need to be able to scale easily. And Dell Technologies offers a wide range of solutions that enable oil and gas companies to be better in the way that they operate. But specifically in terms of what we were talking about today with artificial intelligence, IoT is one of the key ingredients, if you like, that makes up a successful connected digital operations oil field. And that is what we offer. We offer the edge gateway technology, ruggedized, and also the ability to run analytics on the edge. And we also offer the core analytical capability to actually drive that big data problem solving that then feeds out to the edge. And we do that by collaborating with other partners within the industry that have very specific analytical solutions that we can provision with our IT infrastructure.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for sharing those insights with us, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks. All the best.